In the placid suburbs of Syracuse, New York, the rhythm of life flowed predictably. Neighbors greeted each other at grocery stores, children played on quiet streets, and families gathered at community events. But on the evening of March 14, 2013, that serenity was irrevocably shattered. The horrifying actions of David J. Renz, a seemingly inconspicuous man, cast a shadow that continues to haunt the community. What unfolded that night was not just the story of a killer but also a sobering indictment of systemic failures that allowed an unspeakable tragedy to occur. David J. Renz was born in 1984 and grew up in the same New York community where he would later become infamous. Those who crossed paths with him often described him as unremarkable, even shy. However, this facade concealed a mind veering into dangerous territory. Beneath the veneer of ordinariness, Renz's growing obsession with violent and deviant fantasies quietly festered, eventually dominating his inner world. Renz's descent into darkness came into public view in 2012 when he was arrested for possessing child pornography. The scale of his collection was staggering, thousands of images and videos depicting unimaginable acts. The arrest marked a turning point, peeling back the thin veneer of normalcy to reveal a man grappling with urges that law enforcement officials would later describe as uncontrollable. Despite the gravity of his crimes, Renz was granted pretrial release under strict conditions. He was fitted with an electronic ankle monitor, which was supposed to ensure that he remained under constant surveillance. But as the events of the following months would reveal, this safeguard was alarmingly porous. On March 14, 2013, Lori Bresnahan, a beloved school librarian, and a 10-year-old girl she was driving home after a gymnastics class, found themselves face to face with the manifestation of Renz's twisted mind. It was a chilly evening, and the parking lot of the Great Northern Mall was nearly deserted as Lori prepared to drive home. Renz, having tampered with his ankle monitor, lay in wait. Armed with a knife, Renz forced his way into Lori's vehicle. His initial plan, as he would later confess, was to abduct and assault the child. However, Lori's presence complicated his intentions. With calculated violence, he bound the pair and took control of the vehicle, driving them to a secluded area nearby. What transpired in those harrowing moments defied comprehension. While Lori was restrained, Renz subjected the young girl to unspeakable violence. Lori, summoning every ounce of courage, made a desperate attempt to protect the child. She fought to distract Renz, to give the girl a chance to escape. Her resistance enraged him, and in a frenzy he stabbed Lori multiple times, leaving her to bleed to death by the roadside. Amid the chaos, the young girl managed to free herself and fled, her small frame illuminated in the headlights of an approaching car. The driver, startled and alarmed, immediately called 911, setting into motion the pursuit of a killer. News of the attack spread rapidly, plunging the community into shock and fear. Police launched a manhunt for Renz, scouring the area for any trace of him. Less than 2 hours after the attack, their efforts bore fruit. Renz was spotted walking along a quiet street, his clothes stained with blood. When confronted, he offered no resistance, as if the weight of his crimes had already begun to crush him. In his possession, investigators found damning evidence: the knife used in the attack and personal items belonging to Lori and the child. His capture brought an end to his rampage, but it did little to assuage the grief and outrage that now gripped Syracuse. As details of the case emerged, so too did the glaring failures that had allowed Renz to slip through the cracks. An investigation revealed that Renz had tampered with his ankle monitor at least 47 times before the fatal attack. Using a simple technique to disable the device temporarily, he exploited the system's vulnerabilities without triggering alerts. Each violation was an opportunity for intervention, a chance to prevent the tragedy that ultimately unfolded. Yet each time, the oversight mechanisms failed. The revelations sparked a wave of public outrage. How could someone with a known history of deviance and a pending trial for a serious crime operate with such impunity? Federal and state agencies launched internal reviews, and the justice system faced renewed scrutiny. The tragedy of Lori Bresnahan's murder became a rallying cry for reform, a painful reminder of the human cost of institutional failure. Renz's trial was a grim affair. He pleaded guilty to charges of murder, kidnapping, and sexual assault, a decision that spared the young girl the trauma of testifying. In a courtroom packed with Lori's family, friends, and members of the community, the details of the crime were laid bare, each revelation more horrifying than the last. The judge, delivering the sentence, described Renz's actions as monstrous and devoid of humanity. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For the community, the sentence was a measure of justice, though it could never erase the loss of a beloved librarian and the scars inflicted on an innocent child. In the aftermath, experts sought to understand what had driven David J. Renz to commit such atrocities. Forensic psychologists who examined him uncovered a deeply disturbed individual plagued by compulsions he claimed he could not control. Diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive disorder (OCD) and other personality disorders, Renz reportedly harbored violent fantasies that grew increasingly vivid over time. However, while these findings offered insights into his mind, they provided little solace. To the families and community affected, Renz's mental state could never justify his actions or the pain he inflicted. Amid the darkness of the case, Lori Bresnahan's heroism shone brightly. Her final act of selflessness ensured the survival of the child she sought to protect, a testament to her strength and character. Lori was remembered as a dedicated librarian who nurtured a love of learning in countless children. Her impact on the lives she touched extended far beyond her profession, leaving an enduring legacy of kindness and courage. In the years following her death, community members and colleagues worked to preserve Lori's memory. Scholarships were established in her name, and her story inspired efforts to promote awareness about violence prevention and child safety. Through these efforts, Lori's spirit continued to inspire, even in the face of tragedy. The case of David J. Renz served as a stark reminder of the flaws in the justice system's approach to monitoring and rehabilitation. In the wake of the tragedy, significant reforms were proposed, including stricter protocols for supervising high-risk offenders and more rigorous evaluations of monitoring technologies. While these changes were a step in the right direction, they came too late for Lori Bresnahan and the young girl who survived the ordeal. For Syracuse, the case remained a painful chapter in its history, a cautionary tale about the consequences of complacency. The tragedy reverberated far beyond Syracuse. It became a stark example of how systemic failures in monitoring offenders could lead to catastrophic outcomes. Across New York State and beyond, lawmakers, educators, and activists grappled with the implications of the Renz case. For many, it wasn't just a local tragedy but a national wake-up call. Civic leaders in Syracuse organized forums to address the community's grief and anger. Parents expressed concerns about the safety of their children, and law enforcement agencies sought to rebuild public trust. Schools and libraries, where Lori Bresnahan had made her mark, became focal points for community healing, hosting events that celebrated her life and emphasized safety education for children. The young girl who survived the attack remained a symbol of resilience. Though her identity was shielded to protect her privacy, her story inspired countless others. She became a rallying point for advocates pushing for stronger protections for victims and harsher penalties for predators. The case also highlighted the limitations of relying solely on technology to manage dangerous individuals. David Renz's ability to circumvent his ankle monitor exposed vulnerabilities in a system many had assumed was foolproof. Experts in criminology and technology weighed in, emphasizing that monitoring devices must be part of a broader strategy, including regular human oversight and psychological support for offenders. This sparked a national conversation about the balance between public safety and rehabilitation. While electronic monitoring remains a valuable tool, the Renz case underscored the necessity of pairing it with rigorous supervision and timely intervention. The chilling nature of Renz's crimes raised difficult questions about the human capacity for violence and the challenges of identifying dangerous individuals before they act. Forensic psychologists pointed to his extensive history of deviant behavior as evidence of a long escalation toward violence. However, they also acknowledged the difficulty of predicting when such individuals might cross the line from fantasy to action. The case reignited debates about the ethics and efficacy of preventive detention for high-risk offenders. Could stronger measures, such as mandatory confinement for individuals exhibiting clear signs of escalating deviance, have saved Lori Bresnahan? Or would such measures undermine the principles of due process? These questions remain contentious, with no easy answers. What is clear is that Renz's case serves as a grim reminder of the importance of early intervention and the need to address underlying psychological issues before they spiral out of control. As time passed, Lori Bresnahan's memory was honored through numerous initiatives. A scholarship fund in her name provided financial support to aspiring educators, reflecting her lifelong commitment to nurturing young minds. Community members also established a literacy program in her honor, ensuring her passion for books and education continued to inspire future generations. For those who knew her, Lori's absence was deeply felt. Colleagues and students spoke of her kindness, her infectious enthusiasm for learning, and her unwavering dedication to her community. Her story became a source of strength for those striving to make the world a better place, reminding them of the profound impact one person can have. Despite the darkness of the events, the young girl who survived the attack emerged as a beacon of hope. Her courage in the face of unimaginable terror became a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Supported by a loving family and a community determined to see her thrive, she began the long process of healing. Her story became a catalyst for change, inspiring countless others to stand up against violence and advocate for a safer world. For her, life would never be the same, but her survival represented a triumph over the darkness that had sought to consume her. More than a decade later, the legacy of the Renz case remains. It serves as a reminder of the fragility of safety and the responsibility of society to protect its most vulnerable members. For Syracuse, it is a chapter marked by pain but also by resilience and determination to prevent such tragedies in the future. Lori Bresnahan's courage, the young girl's survival, and the community's response continue to inspire efforts to build a safer, more compassionate world. The case of David J. Renz may have exposed the darkness lurking beneath the surface, but it also illuminated the strength and light that emerge in the face of tragedy.